Welcome to today's episode where we dive deep into understanding emotions, its impact on our life, and the science behind them. I'm Jourdan, I'm the founder of Wise Underdog, and today we will explore why understanding emotions is crucial for anyone who are in their personal growth journey, especially for anyone who identify as an underdog. And today we will cover 5 topics. First, what are emotions? Second, the science behind emotions. Third, why emotions can sabotage our life. Fourth, why, as an underdog, we should care about emotions. And lastly, how can we develop emotional intelligence? So first, what are emotions? Let's go back to the origins. Emotions come from the word of Latin called emovere, ex movere, to go out and to move. So in modern interpretation, emotions means energy in motions. And how do we distinguish between emotions and feelings? Feelings are the underlying informations behind emotions. And feelings may not necessarily have an energetic components to it. So if people ask you, how do you feel? You always say, oh, I feel this or I feel that, right? But then people will ask you again, where do you feel it? Then we can locate where the emotion is in our body. And the first misconceptions that people have about emotions is that emotions are here in our brain. Yes, it is in our brain, but it's also in our body. There is a connection between mind and body. It's called mind-body theory. Now, are we our emotions? No, we are not. We just feel emotions. Emotions come and go. Think about emotions as your guests that come to your house. They knock into your door and they will leave at some point. So it is just a transit in our vessels, in our physical body. So emotions are just informations. And the fascinating truth about emotions is that 90 to 95% of our brain, which is our subconscious mind, mostly comprised of emotions. So if we do not understand or comprehend what are emotions, we probably do not understand how emotions rule our life, because our brain dictates our mind, our behavior, and our body and our life. Right, so now we're talking about the science behind it. People always say emotions are illogical. Yes, they are not logical. But they are not the opposite of logic. They are the twins of logic. Behind every logic, there is an emotions. Now let's understand what's the science behind it. There is a new theory that is developed in 1970s by Dr. Stephen Porges. It's called the polyvagal theory. The polyvagal theory explains the nervous system in our body. The nervous system in our body is the vehicle where emotions travel through our body. It is where we can feel different emotions in different parts and organs in our body. And the polyvagal theory explained there are 3 branches of nervous system. First, it comes into 2 first. There is a sympathetic and there is a parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is usually associated with 2 responses in our body, fight or flight. So when we feel certain emotions, we either fight it or flight, like run away from it. The second one is parasympathetic nervous system. This is when we rest and digest. However, there is a misconception about parasympathetic nervous system. It is not just rest and digest. There's also another branch in parasympathetic. So the 2 branches in parasympathetics is called the ventral vagus nerve and the dorsal vagus nerve. The ventral one is the rest and digest, but people do not talk enough about the dorsal one, where it is the nervous system that make you shut down or freeze. So the response to an emotions or situation in our life when people are facing certain dangers, they either can go to sympathetic, where they fight and flee, or they can freeze in the parasympathetic, which is in the dorsal one. But there's also the most ideal nervous system state, which is where we are resting and digesting and ready to connect to the world. This is called the ventral vagus nerve, and we always want to be in this state. So imagine these 3 branches of the polyvagal theory as like a traffic light in your life. Sympathetic is yellow traffic light. Ventral vagus nerve is your green light. Dorsal vagus nerve is your red light. So you always want to be in the green. You don't want to be in the red, otherwise you'll be freezing and depressed maybe. You don't want to always be in this yellow because you don't want to always keep fighting. You want to be in the rest and digest and ready to connect with people. And usually the emotions connected to this is you are calm, compassionate, connected, tranquil, and peace, but you're also ready to do anything. The emotion connected to fight or flight, which is the sympathetic, is usually excitement or anxiety or fear and anger. The emotions connected to the dorsal is this depression, repression, and deep sadness, or just hopelessness and despair. So these are the connections between emotion and nervous systems. So it is clearly that there is a scientific reasons why we feel emotions, because these nervous systems connected to your internal stimuli and your external stimuli. If you face anything in your life that is connected to danger or excitement, you feel a certain thing, and you feel it both in your brain and in your body. And you have to be able to tap into what is your feeling inside your body and in your brain. As I already told you before, the emotions are mostly in the body and 90 to 95% in your brain. This is already scientific fact about emotions, and we cannot ignore the importance of the science behind our emotions. So there's the third topic here is why emotions can sabotage our life. Well, first thing first, most of us do not talk enough about emotions, or people make fun of people who are too emotional or too sensitive. But guess what, guys? Most of your information about decisions probably are directed or determined by your emotions. And if you're not aware about your emotions, about what you're feeling, you're probably gonna make decisions based on what you already feel and feel the most familiar with. And that's probably gonna sabotage your decisions. So let's say you are so used to, or you're feeling anger most of the time, you're feeling anxious most of the time, or you're feeling afraid most of the time. Most of your decisions in your life are going to be determined by these feelings. And that's gonna sabotage the potential of the best version of decision that you could make, right? And this is something that we want to avoid. We want to avoid the saboteur aspect of emotions. Emotions are not good or bad. It's just that if you are stuck in the feeling of emotion that are not constructive for the most optimal and best decision in your life, you will use the most unproductive emotions for your decisions. And you don't want that in your life. We want the most constructive and expansive emotions, such as love, joy, happiness, peace, right? These are the emotions that you want to have, or connection with other people. And you want to avoid the feeling of anxiety, fear, shame, anger, guilt that direct your decisions in your life. I want to address the topic of emotions, particularly connected to people who identify themselves as underdog. These are the minorities or group of people that society usually think or swear at them that they will never succeed in their life, and yet they prove everybody's wrong. So most of underdogs in their life probably are a victim of certain emotions. These are probably like anger, rage, resentment, shame, not feeling good enough, or defensiveness, fear, right? These are probably quite not productive. It is productive to a certain extent, but it can be a liability to their life. How anger, resentment, and then shame and guilt and fear and anxiety can sabotage the life of underdog. It will sabotage their work, their relationships, their leaderships, right? Or their connections with their friends or their bosses. So these things, if they're feeling angry most of the times, if they're feeling anxious most of the time, if they're feeling fearful most of the time, they're not gonna make the best decisions in their life. They're probably gonna find something else that will soothe the emotions by going to a certain addictions in their life, either that through alcohol or workaholism or sex addictions or drugs or shopping or achievements, just to feel better about themselves. Because if they're not aware of these emotions, this sort of constrictive and not really productive emotions, they probably become the victim of those emotions by doing the same thing over and over again, or by going through addictions. Now, let's talk about how can we work with emotions. Like, I've talked enough about how emotion can sabotage, right? But I think we should also think about how can we develop emotional intelligence. There is a research saying someone's success 90% of the time is determined by their resilience and their EQ, or emotional intelligence. IQ, or intellectual intelligence or cognitive intelligence, is probably 10% of our lives, right? But we don't talk enough about this emotional intelligence. So Developing emotional intelligence first is developing awareness about what you feel inside yourself. From awareness, then you can think about the solutions on how to feel differently. So first thing first of developing EQ is developing what emotions do I feel. Most people only know 2 or 3 emotions in their life. They're happy, they're angry, they're disgusted, or they're excited. So very basic things, but people don't know that there is a wheels of emotions. Wheel of emotions, there are like almost hundreds of feelings that we can use to describe our feelings and emotions inside. Even the sensation of emotions can be felt and described. So if we can take over the narrative and then the sensation of emotions and identify them, then we can talk about how to change them. And how to change them relate to your ability to convert those emotions into something else. This is the essence of emotional intelligence. You want to feel joyful, you want to feel happy, you want to feel satisfied and content and grateful, then you have to know why you feel the opposite. By knowing the opposite of this emotion, then you know the root cause of these emotions. And then you can transmute this emotion to feel the emotion that you want to feel and use these new emotions as the new ingredients in your decision in your life. And then from this new state of emotional state, you have the tools on how to actually work with these emotions. So then it doesn't sabotage, it actually amplify and enhance your life. It enhances your leadership, it enhances your career, it enhances your relationship with your partner, with your lovers, your family members, or even with your co-workers. So that's how emotional intelligence can be applied in your life. So today we have covered 5 different topics about emotions. What are emotions? The science behind it, why it can sabotage our life, why this is particularly important for the underdogs, and how can we develop emotional intelligence. If you find this video useful and insightful, please like and subscribe to this channel and share it with anyone who might benefit from the content. And please share your experience with emotions in the comment sections below. Thank you for tuning in with us, and stay tuned for the next episode.